Hey guys, my name is Billy Wink. I'm the CEO of HP Auto, and today I'm going to talk to you about one of my favorite Porsches, the Macan GTS. This is the ultimate budget-friendly Porsche, and it does a lot of things very well. To give you a quick summary of the specs on this, it is 3-liter V6 twin-turbo, 360 horsepower at 6,000 RPMs, 369 foot-pounds of torque at 1,500 RPMs. It does 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. So we will start with some of the things that make a GTS, well, a GTS. The Macan GTS, or for instance, any GTS model, comes standard with a couple things. They all come standard with the Sport Design body kit. So you can see we have the Sport Design front bumper, and then obviously has a Sport Design rear bumper. Along with that, it has the black grille. It comes with PDLS Plus with the black LED, and then we have the black trim here. We have the GTS badge on the lower side blade, the GTS badge in the rear, the tinted taillights. All of these come standard with the 20-inch RS Spyder satin black wheels, which is all standard options on the Macan GTS. So all the GTSs come with the exclusive leather and Alcantara interior, as you can see here. Just kidding. So this car is actually one of the GTSs that doesn't have the Alcantara interior, but that's pretty much standard. So usually you can expect to see the Alcantara headliner, Alcantara seats. You have some leather accents and some things of that nature as well. Then you also notice, you look at the trim around the instrument cluster and the door panel and the door sills, they all come with the stainless brushed trim as a default option. They all come with the Bose stereo as a default option as well, and then the multi-function steering wheel. Standard seats in these is the 8-way power seat. They do have a little bit more sport function, but a lot of people actually don't like the 8-ways because they're programmed to want to have the 14 or 18-way seats, but I personally like the 8-ways because they look much more sporty in the GTS models. So a lot of people with Porsches ask, what are the must-have options? Just being honest with you, how these come, they're pretty much great. So if you're looking at one of these cars, it's more budget-friendly, and you can get some of the more unique options without paying the markup because of the car is depreciated and aged out. But if you're looking to say, hey, I got a Macan GTS and it's super option out, I'll give you some ideas. But again, I don't think you have to have these options because this car is such a great budget-friendly car to start with. A lot of people ask about Sport Chrono. So what does Sport Chrono do? Well, obviously it makes the shifting more aggressive. It gives you launch mode, gives a little bit a different tune, more aggressive timing. So that's a good option to consider. It is not a must-have option. These come with the Sport button. It just doesn't have the launch control, but you can still do launch control without Sport Chrono in these cars. Another option that people may want to consider is adaptive cruise. Now, it's not a must-have option, but certain people that drive these cars prefer that, so that's a good option to have. Another option that you may want to consider is the Burmester sound system. It's very rare. I haven't seen it very often, but that's a great option. Another option is the pano roof. Again, I don't really care about the sunroof. If you're looking for those options, that's a good one to consider as well in this car. Another desirable option is lane change assist. Now this is a lot more common in these cars, so you probably won't have a hard time finding it. A lot of the people that buy these cars prefer to have lane change assist, which isn't super hard to find. So that's a good option to consider. Another option, which this car doesn't have, is the carbon interior package. I really like that because it obviously replaces this in carbon, the steering wheel, and there's other trim such as the door sill and whatnot in carbon. But that's another option that if you're trying to have something unique on a Macan GTS, that's a good one to look for. When I do these videos, I like to talk about what can you compare this car to. That way you can kind of see the value in actually getting this car or the con. So if you're looking at one of these cars, a comparable car would be a 2018 AMG GLC 43 or a 2018 BMW X3 M40i. So if you were looking to get an M40i, what would be the pros of that car over the Macan? Well, the first thing is you're looking at about a 15 to 20% difference in price for the lower part of the price. The BMW is significantly less priced than the Porsche Macan because the Macan does depreciate significantly better than the BMW. Another pro is you have a lot more cargo space. The Porsche is obviously a little bit more compact and performance focused, so there's a little bit more cargo space in the Porsche. And then the BMW is notoriously going to have more tech. Porsche doesn't want you to have as much tech because they want you to be focused on driving the car, so you're going to get a little bit more tech in the BMW. And then obviously it's going to be a little bit more comfortable and less aggressive than the Porsche. And then the last pro is it is slightly more fuel efficient than the Porsche because it's a little bit more economy focused. I mean, the M40i is a sports car, but the GTS is 100% focused on performance. So what are the cons of the M40i? Well, just like we started with the price, also the depreciation. You can expect the M40i to depreciate a lot faster than the Macan. Another con is it doesn't have the aggressive styling like the Porsche. So the M40i also isn't going to have the aggressive styling as the Porsche. So it's not going to be quite as unique and aggressive looking. Another thing to consider is it doesn't quite have the performance as the Porsche, so you're going to lose some performance if you go with that option as well. And the standard equipment on the M40i is not comparable to the Porsche, along with the options. Like we talked about earlier, you can get a lot of options on a Porsche. The BMW doesn't quite give you as many options to choose from. And then the last con is it's just a much more common car. You're more likely to see an X3, and there's not really going to be a big difference in a M40i and a base X3. People are going to know if you're in a Macan GTS. So if you don't mind not standing out in the crowd, then that's okay. But if you want to stay out in the crowd, the Macan GTS is the way to go. We'll talk about the AMG GLC 43. So we'll start with the pros. Just like the BMW, you're looking at about a 15 to 20% less entry price into the GLC 43. Another thing with the Mercedes is it's a lot more comfort driven. Yes, it is AMG, but Mercedes really emphasizes luxury and comfort. So that's going to be another pro if that's what you're looking for versus the more performance focus of the Porsche Macan. Another pro of the Mercedes is the interior is much more luxury focused. So it's going to be a little bit more comfortable than the Macan and not quite as firm. And the safety and tech features of the Mercedes are a lot more advanced and standard on the Mercedes versus the Porsche. So just like we started with, one of the cons is it's going to depreciate quite a bit faster than the Porsche as well. So expect that same depreciation rate with the M40i with the AMG GLC 43. It is also a lot less agile and doesn't have quite the performance as the Macan GTS. So you're going to lose some performance. The car is going to feel a little more sluggish and heavier as well. Styling is a lot more conservative, kind of like with the X3 and the M40i. People may not be able to tell you apart as much in the AMG GLC 43 versus the Macan GTS. Like we said about the M40i, you're not going to stick out in the crowd. That's important to you, or maybe it's not important to you. That's up to consider. When you're a Macan GTS, it's very easy to tell this is different than a base Macan. Versus in the GLC 43, people may mistake it for just a standard GLC. Just kind of depends on what their car knowledge is. So that's one thing to consider if you're worried about sticking out in the crowd. It won't be in the GLC 43. So what's the verdict? Well, if you like performance, aggressive style, being unique, being a little bit different, and not losing as much money on your asset, the Macan GTS is obviously the #1 choice. And next, we'll talk about kind of what the maintenance schedule is like. Pretty much all Porsches have the same schedule with a couple changes in them. So what you're looking at here is every year or 10,000 miles, Porsche recommends changing the oil and filter and inspection of the vehicle. Every 2 years or 20,000 miles, they recommend cabin filter replacement and brake fluid flush. On the turbo models, so Turbo, GTS, the S model, because it's turbo, well, and the base model as well, because they all are standard turbo cars. 3 years or 30,000 miles on the spark plugs. Every 4 years or 40,000 miles, you should do the engine air filter and the PDK clutch fluid. Every 6 years and 60,000 miles is the drive belt replacement. Now, there are some additional services that Porsche recommends as well. At 120,000 miles or 12 years, they recommend the all-wheel drive controller fluid and the rear differential fluid. Now, we have kind of found from our experience that some of these intervals could be improved and significantly increase the livelihood of the components in the car. So we recommend every 3 years or 30,000 miles do the coolant flush. Every 4 years or 40,000 miles do the differential in the PDK, the all-wheel drive diff, and the rear diff. And then we recommend doing the transfer case every 4 years or 40,000 miles. Porsche did have a batch of transfer case issues, which at this point we've noticed that there's not hardly any of those issues pop up in our service shop or what we've seen through our research, but we still recommend changing the transfer case fluid every 4 years or 40,000 miles. And I'm sure you're gonna wonder, what are the common problems with the Macan GTS? Well, if you click the link right here, it's gonna take you to a video that covers all 2015-18 95B S, GTS, and Turbo Macan common problems. So I hope I answered all your questions if you're looking at buying a Macan GTS. Personally, this is one of my favorite cars Porsche makes. It's under budget compared to most. It does everything from being a daily driver, having space in the back. You can even tow stuff with it. You can use it as a work truck. You can track it. You can off-road. So there's a lot of purposes and features about it. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. And if you have any questions, please comment below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.